The National Prosecuting Authority says it has asked Interpol to assist with the execution of arrest warrants for Atul Gupta and his wife, Rajesh Gupta, and his wife as well. Now, this is in relation to a matter involving 17 suspects named in the Estina Dairy Farm scandal. So, of course, that includes two former departmental heads of the Agriculture Department, as well as a Gupta associate linked to Salim Essa Iqbal Sharma. And they appeared in court, the NPA, saying that it would like to proceed with the court proceedings and then wait on the others that are not in South Africa. Let's talk to an immigration lawyer now, Ashraf Essop, joining us on the line. Mr. Essop, thank you very much. Can we start at the beginning? The Guptas skipped the country. We then knew that they went to Dubai. There was a flurry to try and bring them back from Dubai. Just tell us about those early efforts and how it all failed, because obviously this is years and years later.
Hi, thank you and good evening. Thanks for the opportunity. So let's try and clarify some of the historical background here in the efforts made by the NPA and or government to try and bring back, in this case, the Guptas, to answer charges in the Republic. So I think what is common cause is until today, there were no charges made directly against the Guptas. I think this is a first. And therefore, that is the reason why the NPA is looking at other alternatives. So what were the efforts made to date, which is quite interesting. So in the absence of direct evidence, we'll have to go with what we've heard thus far in the media. And the narrative is that they had requested the Dubai government to extradite the Guptas. And we don't know how many they are and who the request was made, but for them to come back and face charges or whatever else is happening in the Republic, why their presence is required. So as we know, in instances like this, a extradition, a treaty between two governments, it's governed by the precepts of the treaty, and it's usually entered into with the Department of International Relations and the DIRCO, International Relations and Cooperation. So, judging from what we've been able to read, efforts were made to try and convince the authorities in Dubai, which in this case would have been the Dubai government and their foreign affairs or minister, and to say to them that, look, this is a request that we're putting through, and the request will take a particular form, and the receiving country will then decide what they're going to do with such a request. From what we've been told, there's been a lot of feet dragging.
Yeah.
And we don't know if and when that will be resolved. And I think that was a trigger for the NPA to see if it could deploy or redeploy some of the efforts, other ways of securing their attendance in the country.
Can we clarify a few more things? So there is an extradition treaty between Dubai and South Africa. So technically it's allowed, but obviously the Dubai authorities have to be happy with the request. That's what you're saying?
Yeah, well, in the usual case, they'll have to entertain that request within their domestic jurisdiction. And we don't know how far that has gone. I mean, you must understand that Dubai is a unique place. It's not in how we used to doing things here, that there is a precedent and a set of rules, and a lot in the GCC countries depends on the rulers. So you could have a royal decree that could override everything. So we're not certain why there's actually a hiccup. What is common cause is that it hasn't yet been executed. Whether there was a domestic inquiry, whether there should be a domestic inquiry before they accede to the government's request, we don't know. All we can see is there's been a lot of delays for whatever reason, and it's not explained, neither by the Dubai government in full, nor by our government. I don't think we have a clear picture of what has actually emerged there. What is very clear is that it hasn't happened.
All right, then why didn't we start this Interpol process, which could see them being arrested in countries that subscribe to Interpol and are members? Why didn't we do that a long time ago?
So, again, we're trying to second-guess the efforts of the NPA, but I guess that they would have looked at the easiest method first. Now, Interpol comes with its own problems. Interpol is not a government organization. It's an inter-policing organization. It's police departments from one country getting in touch with the police department of another country. I mean, they have extraterritorial jurisdiction in the sense that their cooperation goes over international boundaries. So the way that actually works is they maintain a list of suspects. And if there is indeed a criminal case in one jurisdiction, then the police services of that jurisdiction can request the cooperation of the police services in the other jurisdiction. So they might be able to have the right to detain you in the second country, but Interpol itself doesn't have any rights of extradition. Interpol will then have to wait for the extradition process or something, but they certainly have the right to arrest you and detain you. This is in terms of their international protocol.
Okay, so let's clarify. Sorry, Mr. Essop, we're running out of time, and I'm loving your explanations tonight. So this won't really help then if the Guptas are arrested in Dubai, because it all comes down to whether or not the authorities want to extradite them. But they can't travel anywhere else, or many countries will be barred. Is that the situation?
Yeah, and I'm going to deal with the travel at present. Look, there's a huge difference between walking around as a suspect and being arrested and kept in custody as a suspect. Can you imagine what that would do with the Gupta family if that were to happen? I mean, it will be a complete change of circumstances from the luxury of the home to being the guest of the Dubai government. So I don't think that will weigh easily on them. So the big in how these things happen and while they're waiting for the process to unfold. Now we come to the question about where and how are they traveling. Now this is very interesting because you would know that Atul Gupta has launched a concurrent application for the renewal of his passport. So there's one of two theories here. A, the passport is expired and our government doesn't want to which then brings into the question of their nationality. Still South African nationals. They should be, because they're using South African travel documents to live in Dubai. And India doesn't allow dual citizenship, so definitely they're not an Indian passport. So these are South Africans, fugitives from justice, living in a foreign jurisdiction at the behest of our government's passport, which may or may not have expired and now is a subject of a high court application, so it's sub judice. So it's very interesting to see what the response of the government would be in respect of their travel arrangements, because some people were saying that the Guptas had now moved their base to Uzbekistan. Now, how would you be able to travel without an official South African passport because you're no longer an Indian citizen? The second question is, what is their status in Dubai? Does the Dubai Home Affairs or the equivalent not have an interest in their visa? Yeah. You can't have a visa in an expired travel document. So again, that throws up a whole lot of other issues that the NPA could certainly look into, which is now going beyond the scope.
Yeah. I have to stop you there. This is fascinating, and the legalese around it fascinating as well. We'll follow this request from the National Prosecuting Authority for Interpol to help arrest the Guptas, the two brothers, and their wives, and see if something moves now. But thank you for that great explanation. Immigration lawyer Ashraf Essop.